Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Garage Talk with Doug. I'm here to answer your questions regarding auto repair or anything automotive related that you care to discuss is always a welcome subject here on my channel. I'd like to just start out by telling everybody that I am a retired ASE certified master auto technician with about 35 years experience. I also am a New York State licensed teacher of automotive repair and technology, licensed by the New York State Education Department. Hey Carl, what's up? My buddy Carl Brook is on, and he's just saying hello. Hope all is well with you today, Carl. I'll talk to you later regarding some of the things that we were trying to solve yesterday. Yes, let me click on your name, and why is it it's not letting me make you a mod. All right, listen, we'll try this later on. I'm in the middle of this live stream right now, and don't want to get sidetracked. In any case, hope that some of you other folks will join me here for this discussion today. What I wanted to talk about with you folks a bit today is about brakes, because everybody needs good brakes, or as they say, we all need a brake. You know, anybody can get in the car, drive it off, but no matter what, we all have to be able to stop it. Hey, Billy boy, good to see you aboard. Hope you brought some good questions for me this week, as I'm eager and anxious to ask them. I just want to tell you folks, I may not do a complete hour here today. I'm a little tired. I had dialysis last night, and kind of had a rough night of it last night. So just bear with me if I seem to be a little out of it. All right, let me back up in the chat, see who's coming on to say hello. Yeah, Steve, how are you? From Steve's Vids. Billy, I think I said hello to you already. Yes, Tacking to Catch a Fresh Breeze, welcome back. It's good to see you back here again this week. I think I have just messed up and switched my camera around, so let me fix that by going back here. All right, just bear with me, folks. No, I don't want to stop. There we go. And I'll be back here in just a second. There we go. Let me just fix this camera up here a bit. I finally got a tripod. And, yeah, I think that'll work, huh? How's that, folks? Is that good? All right, Tagging to Catch a Breeze. You had some good questions for me last week. I hope you brought some more good ones this week. But like I said, what I wanted to talk to you guys about this week a bit is about brakes. And, you know, what does it take to do a complete brake job, a thorough brake job, to make sure that that vehicle is going to stop properly when you want it to? Because let's face it, you're driving, you know, a 1.5 ton, 2-ton weapon, maybe larger than that if you have a larger vehicle, and you have to be able to bring those vehicles to a safe stop. All right, let me just go back here in the chat a little bit. Steve, I hope I said hello to you. I think I did, but if I didn't, we're back again, and here we go again. I keep hitting the wrong button and switching the camera out. All right, technical issues. In any case, folks, in order to do a brake inspection, you know, a lot of shops you bring your car into, you know, I don't want to really mention names, but you know who they are. They're the big chains, you know, muffler shops, tire shops. You know, they'll tell you, oh, yeah, bring your car in, we'll do a free brake inspection. Generally, they're pulling one tire, maybe two. But to do a complete brake inspection, folks, you really need to start by jacking up the car off all four wheels and pulling all four tires. All right, that way we can get at the brakes, see what the linings look like, see if there's any abnormal wear. And what do I mean by abnormal wear? You know, we often refer to that in, you know, amongst technicians, oh, your brakes have abnormal wear. Well, what does that mean? All right, it usually means that you have one pad wearing down faster than another, or maybe one wheel is wearing out brakes faster than another. And there is definitely a cause behind that. All right, now what might the cause be? Well, for that we need to do a little detective playing, and investigate the situation. In investigating the brakes, and I hope, by the way, to show you a complete brake job on some of the upcoming things I have planned. I was hoping to do a little bit today, but I am just wiped out from dialysis today, folks. Like I said, I had a very rough night of it last night. I was up with leg cramps and foot cramps, and it's nasty stuff. But in any case, I did want to get on today and talk to you about this. All right, as to why brake pads might wear improperly. Well, you might have a caliper that's sticking. It could be sticking either on the inboard pad, causing it to wear out prematurely. In which case, what that would mean is that if you have a single piston caliper on your car, that the caliper piston is not retracting when you release the brake pedal. It's sticking and causing the brakes to drag and causing the inboard pad to wear out prematurely.
Where are we going?
Now, the same thing can be said about the outboard pad. An outboard pad could wear prematurely as well. Again, with a single piston caliper, we call these floating calipers, and they operate on slide pins. And if those slide pins are rusted up and the caliper can't move back and forth freely, then the outboard pad was going to wear out prematurely. Ideally, we want both brake pads to wear at the same rate. When brake pads wear at the same rate, we know that we're applying even pressure to both sides of the brake pad, pushing against the rotor of the brake drum, and thereby bring the vehicle to a safe stop. Alright, give me just a second here. I'm just trying to get caught up on the chat.
Anything new? We got Devin Carl on the bed. He's gonna stay with us. I got a hold of the cops.
Alright, just bear with me.
Woman's county. We can catch up to her over there for her.
Smoking, hello.
Missions, paperwork.
Let me just see who else is on here.
Insurance, none. Employer, none.
Okay, Carl says my vehicle weighs 8,000 pounds and does not have brakes. Yeah, well, when you have a sailboat, Carl, that's the brakes. You're using the friction of the surface of the water against your hull to bring the boat to a stop. All right, in any case, I know you're just busting my chops, Carl. I know.
I'll have to mess with that lawyer.
No. All right.
On what? A lawyer work for free? Me and I can front you some cash. What, front us some cash? Like we're ever going to be able to pay you back?
All right.
She'll get one.
Mark Gotham, how are you?
Are you kidding me? An overworked...
All right, Carl is saying here that his old Excursion always pulled to one side due to faulty wheel speed indicators. The wheel speed indicators really, Carl, only used for the ABS system. That's the anti-lock braking system. All right, if the car pulled to one side or another, you probably had a caliper that was sticking and causing the vehicle to pull to one side or another. All right, that problem can be exacerbated by having worn steering components as well. And that could lead to some really dangerous situations when the car pulls to one side or another like that. Again, very important that when you have single piston calipers or even dual piston calipers, if those calipers are free floating calipers, which means that they operate by sliding back and forth on a slide pin, and it only has pistons on one side of the caliper, all right, it acts like a clamp. And if those slides aren't working correctly, the car is going to tend to want to pull to the opposite side because the brakes are not being fully applied on the side that's sticking. Make sense so far? I hope it does. All right. All right, getting back to inspecting the brakes. The first thing that I like to do, all right, when I go to do a brake inspection, is pop the hood, and I want to check the condition of the brake fluid. Brake fluid absorbs water over time, folks, and it's what we call hydroscopic. All right, it simply means that it absorbs water. It's
You did a pretty good job.
just,
Close.
what's the word I'm looking for? It's susceptible to moisture,
This is
and
He saved your life.
water boils at a much lower temperature than brake fluid does. So what happens if we get water in the brakes and overheat our brake fluid? We end up turning that water to steam, and as we know, gases can be compressed where fluids can't be. All right, which is why hydraulics work. When we turn the water in the brake fluid to a vapor, which is a gas, it can then be compressed. And that's when we end up with what we call a spongy brake pedal, or the brake pedal could go all the way to the floor. If that ever happens to you, by the way, in an emergency situation, try to rapidly pump the brake pedal. Sometimes by rapidly pumping the brake pedal, we can temporarily displace the gases that are in the brake system, and we can gain a brake pedal back and bring the vehicle to a safe stop. If that doesn't work, then reach for the handbrake or the emergency foot brake. All right, it's going to take you much longer to stop with that, but that's what it's there for. All right. Hope that helped. All right, getting back to this brake inspection, folks. As I said, I like to start by popping the hood, taking the cap off of the brake master cylinder, and I'll actually stick my finger in the brake fluid. I want to smell the brake fluid. Does it smell burnt? Does it look like it have any contaminants in it? Does it feel gritty? All right, these are all signs of contaminants in the brake fluid, which indicates that the brake fluid needs to be changed. Normally, brake fluid should be changed about, I'm going to say, every other year. All right, some people are going to tell you, yeah, you should change it out every year. I don't think that it's necessary to do it that often. I'd say every 2 years you should change your brake fluid out, bleed the brakes, get the contaminants out of the braking system, because dirt and rust does accumulate from wear within the brake system. Your rubber hoses, which are your brake hoses, the flexible hoses that connect your calipers to the brake lines, all right, those do wear with time, and you'll pick up contaminants from the inside of those brake lines, and it will transfer into the brake fluid and be carried to the calipers and wheel cylinders. If you want to keep your brake system operating well and operating properly, all right, with a minimal amount of having to do maintenance such as replacing calipers or rebuilding calipers and wheel cylinders, replacing master cylinders and things like that, I strongly advise that you change your brake fluid every 2 years. All right, more often if you live on the shore in very damp areas of the country, then I would change it a little bit more often. Getting back to doing that brake inspection, like I said, you want to start by pulling all 4 tires off. If it has drum brakes in the rear, you need to remove your brake drums. All right, most cars these days usually have 4-wheel disc brakes or a combination of disc brakes in the front, drum brakes in the back. As I said, you want to remove the brake drums, you want to remove the wheels so you can get the brakes to do a brake inspection. The first thing that I want to look at when I pull a wheel off is, when I'm looking at disc brakes, the color of the brake rotor. Does it look blue? Does it look gray? Does it look like it has had, heat buildup, where the metal is discolored from heat buildup? All right, that's from the brakes getting overheated and too hot. Or the rotor maybe is too thin now and doesn't have the material to dissipate heat the way it should. All right, those can create problems. I want to look at the overall condition of the rotor. Is it nice and smooth? Or does it have grooves in it? Is it rough? All right, if it's rough or has grooves in it, chances are the brake pads are worn down to where it's metal on metal. All right, you can tell if brakes are worn metal on metal because when you step on them, you're going to hear a grinding sound or a very loud squealing. That's also a way of determining whether your brakes need to be inspected. If you hear any noise coming from your brakes, get them inspected. Okay, there's a reason for that noise, and that noise is due to vibration, usually of the brake pads within the caliper. All right, on drum brakes, it's usually a buildup of brake dust between the brake drum and the brake linings. That gets in there, and that causes the brake drums to chatter, also creating vibrations and causing the squeal or squeak. When you look at the brake pads, you can use a gauge to measure the thickness of the lining material that's left. Where you're measuring is you're measuring between the lining material and the backing plate itself of the brakes. And in general, you want to have a minimum of at least 2/32 of an inch of material. All right, 2/32, 1/16, it's the same thing. But you want to have at least a 1/16 of an inch of brake lining material. If your brake linings are thinner than that, it's time for a brake job, folks. All right. When I go to do the brake job, I'm going to check the calipers to make sure they're operating freely. I also want to take a look at my flexible brake lines that attach the calipers to the brake hose. I also want to take a look at the brake lines themselves. Are they rusty? Do they look like they're leaking? All right, all of these things need to be looked at in order to perform a proper brake job.
Let's go.
Another thing that I want to look at is when I go to remove the brake caliper, I want to use either a C-clamp or a very large pair of channel locks, and putting the old brake pad between the brake piston and those C-clamps or channel locks. I want to compress the piston back into the caliper, making sure that it slides back up freely.
Should we be getting ready for school?
If it doesn't slide back up freely, all right, then we have a problem with the caliper and it needs to be rebuilt. All right. Now, calipers these days can be rebuilt. You can buy the rebuild kits in the parts stores. They're very inexpensive. But in order to save time and labor, a lot of people don't even bother rebuilding calipers anymore. They simply go to the parts store and buy a remanufactured caliper. They're inexpensive, they're cost effective because you don't have to take the time to tear down the caliper, buy a brake honing tool to remount the caliper bore so that we have a nice clean bore inside for the piston to slide back and forth in. You don't have to bother, lubricating the seals with brake fluid and installing the pistons and the seals and the dust boots and all that. So for the most part, when you guys are doing it, you're going to buy remanufactured parts. I just want to get back to the chat here for a second.
Of the United States.
Hell yeah, why not? They already elected a skinny half-black Muslim dude named after a towel-head dictator.
All right. Billy Boy says, no, Billy, I know you still can't share my link. All right. Yeah, Timuchi. How are you, Timuchi? You should mic the rotors and see whether they are where they are to determine if you can turn them or buy new ones. Yes, absolutely. Rotors have a minimum thickness specification on them. When rotors get too thin, they don't dissipate heat properly. They tend to warp. They can cause a pulsation in the brake pedal. They can cause a pulsation in the steering wheel when you step on the brake. All right. If you have a pulsation in the steering wheel and you're not stepping on the brake, then that most assuredly is in your steering linkage. All right. But if you step on the brake and notice a pulsation in the brake pedal, your rotors are probably warped, or your brake drums are out of round, and you're getting that vibration back through the braking system, and you feel it in the brake pedal. All right. Rotors have a minimum specification. You can look up those specifications online. AMCO publishes a manual, and that can also tell you what your minimum thickness specifications are, your minimum machine tool specifications are for your rotors. All right, you never want to cut a rotor below minimum specifications. All right, and if the motor is down to minimum thickness specifications, then it cannot be refinished and it needs to be replaced with a new one. The good thing is that rotors have come down a lot in price. However, I do recommend using a name brand, quality brand rotor. There are a lot of cheap stuff out there coming in from Mexico and China, and the metals just aren't the quality of the metals that we get here in the States. All right, let me scroll through here again some more. Whole shot, hi, how are you? All right, King of Chuck says my 74 Jeep CJ5 has stock power steering and brakes. What does that mean? Because they look like they are normal brakes.
Their education beckons.
Okay, stock power steering
About 90 minutes.
and brakes.
90 minutes players worth. Eat.
I'm not sure that I fully follow you here, King of Chuck. Okay, let me just read this again to myself and try and figure out what you're trying to tell me. Yeah, it has stock power steering and brakes. Yeah, they look like normal brakes because they are normal brakes. They're stock. Stock simply means that's what the manufacturer put on the vehicle when the vehicle was new. All right, there are aftermarket parts available. We can buy Shorestop is one of the names that comes to mind. They manufacture quality braking parts, usually ceramic brake pads and rotors that are treated so that they don't rust. They also sell vented rotors and cross-drilled rotors. That helps dissipate some of the gases that are created when we brake very hard on our brakes because the brakes get hot. Some of the cement that's used to bond the braking linings to the metal backing plates tends to give off gases. And, vented rotors just help to vent some of those gases away from the braking surface and improve the braking characteristics of the vehicle. All right. Hope that helped, Chuck. Biker Coyote, how are you? What are my thoughts on Tesla? I kind of touched on that last week in my video. I think Tesla is an awesome manufacturer. I think that their technology in this day and age is second to none. I think that their technology is going to bleed down to the major automotive manufacturers, and for that reason, I think it's a good thing. If it wasn't for people like Elon Musk, we wouldn't have the types of technologies coming down the pike that is being brought to us today. In fact, I used to tell my automotive students when I taught in the high schools and the tech schools and colleges and such that eventually, probably later on in their lifetimes, they're going to have cars that are completely autonomous. In other words, you'll get in the car, you won't need to see out the windshield except for sightseeing. It's not going to have a steering wheel or stick shift or gear shift lever or anything else. It's going to be computer controlled. It's going to have using sonar and radar and other technologies that are coming down the pike. It's going to be self-navigated, and the vehicle will literally drive itself. You will tell the vehicle where you want it to go, and it will, through GPS, positioning systems, and so forth, take you to your destination. All right. As far as getting back to Tesla, I think that their new Roadster is absolutely phenomenal. It's out of this world. Any car that can do 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds is closer to a rocket ship or an airplane than it is an automobile. All right. King of Chuck says, I need to work on those brakes because it's been sitting for years. Yeah, Chuck, if it's been sitting for years, you definitely need to work on the brakes. Probably from sitting, the rotors are all rusted up, the calipers are probably frozen, wheel cylinders are probably rusted in the back on the drum brakes, and wheel cylinders probably need to be rebuilt or replaced. In the very near future, guys, I will be taking you through a brake job on one of my vehicles to show you what it's all about, and we'll go from there. All right, let me get back. Yeah, Carl is saying to Chuck, Chuck, stock means original equipment or normal. Yeah, that's basically it, Chuck. Nothing more. Let's see, Captain 10 Star. How are you, Captain 10 Star? 92 Honda Civic runs for 15 minutes and then just stops. Doesn't sputter, just stops. After it cools off, it runs again. Yeah, there are thermal sensors on that engine. I take it's a Honda Civic, probably the CVCC. Yeah, there are thermal sensors and cutoffs on that to where if the engine overheats or the cooling system overheats, it's going to shut the car off. Yeah, 15 minutes later, the engine's cool again, and you're able to start it up. Common problem. Have somebody investigate your cooling temperature sensors. Make sure they're operating properly. If they are, have your thermostat checked. Make sure that it's not overheating. Of course, on a 92, it could be any number of things from a bad water pump to a blown head gasket that could cause the vehicle to overheat. Many, many reasons for that. Your best bet is to start playing detective and go through the systems, check them out, and if it truly is overheating, then start investigating as to why. I would start with the thermostat and work my way from there to perhaps a bad radiator or clogged radiator, a worn water pump, all right, or a leaky water pump. Hopefully not blown head gaskets, because if you've got blown head gaskets, that's going to involve, some major engine overhaul work. The cylinder heads will have to come off, the heads will have to be serviced, and then reinstalled with new gaskets. Okay, let me get back here to the chat.
Complicated how?
Everybody's saying hi to one another. I'm glad to see that. A lot of people know each other here. I missed a question from Tacking. I'm sorry. Let me back up and see what Tacking was asking. I apologize for that, Tacking, but let me back up here in the chat.
A dryer?
I remember there was a tennis shoe or something in there. Kept thumping. I banged your mom to the rhythm of it. Okay, Sammy, wait, look, oh. Hey, it wasn't candles and Barry White on the stereo. Who cares? Something incredibly beautiful and special came out of it.
I don't see where I missed a question from. Let me just make sure I'm in live chat. Like I said, just let me make sure I'm in live chat.
Now what?
The hospice places.
Oh, for Christ's sake, why?
Please.
No.
Oh, tracking to catch a fresh breeze. There it is. I'm sorry. I apologize, guys. I was in top chat instead of live chat, so I apologize for that. Okay. Tracking to catch a breeze, a fresh breeze, I should say, is asking, quick review. Is it worth repairing a damaged CV boot on an old truck that's not worth much? Drives fine for now. If it drives fine, I'd say, yeah, replace it so you can use it. You don't want to risk breaking, a CV joint and not being able to move the truck, getting stuck with it and then needing a tow. CV axle shafts, even if you can replace the whole shaft, are generally under $100 these days. If you plan on rebuilding it yourself, you can usually get the CV joint replaced for under $40. Very economical, not a difficult repair to do, but you do have to know something about how these things are put together and, how they go together. If it isn't done right, then you're going to have problems on reinstalling the CV shaft, into the transmission and into the hub assembly at the wheel. So keep that in mind. All right, let me get back here. Hope that helped.
It was an accident. I had no idea that my brother was still there.
All right, keep those questions coming, folks. I enjoy answering them. Captain 10 Star does not overheat. Okay, Captain 10 Star, it doesn't overheat, but it's cutting out. Okay, here's an idea. How long's it been since you changed the fuel filter? All right, get back to me with that, Captain 10 Star. Akula, how are you, buddy? He says, hi, Doug. I have a 74 500 cubic inch Cadillac engine. Brings back memories for me, bud. I weaned my teeth on those babies. Yeah, Holly four barrel. It starts fine when cold. When warm, the starter can barely turn the engine over.
Yes, Your Honor.
Read the charges.
When warm, the starter can barely turn the engine over. Any ideas? Replace starter, battery, and cable. All right, let me think on that for a minute. Well, those Cadillac engines needed a lot of juice to turn over. You said you replaced the battery. How many cold cranking amps do you have on your battery, Akula? All right, I need to know that offhand. For a 500 cubic inch engine, you really should have at least an 800, 850 cold cranking amp battery. Anything less than that is, it's just not going to be adequate to turn over an engine of that size. All right. Also, you want to make sure that the starter isn't hanging up. Listen, I've gone to the auto parts store where I've bought rebuilt starters right off the shelf and had the damn things malfunction when they've been installed and had to do it all over again. It's one of the more annoying parts of being an auto mechanic or an auto technician, having to do your work twice. And it's not your fault, it's the fault of whoever was rebuilding the parts. Being that I'm kind of old school, I prefer rebuilding a lot of that stuff myself. At least I know what's gone into it. You know? All right. All right. More hellos. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I even had the TV on. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn the TV off completely. That should be much better. Jeez. You know, I'm getting old in my old age. All right. Whole shot. 2012 Nissan Frontier. Just had a full brake job done less than 1,000 miles ago, and they are already starting to squeak. It's very minor, but everything is new. What could cause that? They probably didn't put any anti-squeal compound on the back of the brake pads. I see it so many times in the trade. Guys, those of you who are professional mechanics that are out there, please, when you are installing brakes, okay, especially disc brake pads, especially on these front-wheel drive vehicles, please, please, please make sure you're using anti-squeal on the backing of the brake pad, between the brake pad and the caliper. Squeals are due to nothing more than vibration, and what's happening there is your brake pads are vibrating, and that's what's causing the squeal. Nothing serious to worry about, more of an annoyance factor than anything else. As long as you don't hear grinding noises coming from the brakes, all is well. Okay, grinding noise would mean that the brake pads are worn to where now you've got metal surfaces contacting metal surfaces, and that is not a good thing. Okay, hope that helped with that. All right. Kula, what I would do if I were you, whole shot, if I were you and you're handy, I would go on down to the auto parts store, get yourself some anti-squeal compound. It comes in either tubes or little squeeze packets, and I would take my brake pads out. Okay, I'd put some of that anti-squeal compound on the back of the brake pad, between the brake pad backing plate, the middle backing plate, and the caliper piston, and then reinstall my brake pads. Chances are that's going to get rid of your squeal or your squeak. Cool. Checked grounds, I think 800 amps. Okay. 800 amps should be sufficient for turning that over, but it sounds to me like you have a resistance problem, because you said that, this is only happening when this engine is hot. That means the starter is hot, and, with ambient temperature, it increases the resistance in electrical circuits. All right, I would say you probably have high resistance on your starter when it's getting hot, and then the 800 amps isn't enough to crank over that starter. I would say you probably got a bad starter. That would be my guess, Akula. Okay, hope that helped with that question regarding your Cadillac, your old Cadillac. No, I don't think the engine's vapor locked. I don't think so at all. I think you got resistance in that starter circuit. You might have changed out, this battery cables and all that. In fact, I forgot, I got to back up. Which battery cable did you say you changed out again? Let me just back up here in the chat and see. Was it the ground cable or was it the starter cable? Okay, hang on a second. You replaced the starter. The starter, the battery, and the cable. Did you replace both cables or just the ground cable? All right. Because if you didn't replace the starter cable, you could have high resistance in the starter cable to the starter. There could be high resistance in the starter itself, but it definitely sounds to me like it's a resistance problem in an electrical circuit and not vapor lock. All right, let me get back here. Yeah, Captain 10 Star, yeah, I was just asking about the fuel filter because I don't know how long it's been since you changed it. When you have an electric fuel pump and you're trying to push fuel through a clogged filter, if it's not getting enough fuel, yeah, the engine's going to die. Then you let it settle, the dirt, settles to the bottom of the filter, medium, and you're able to start it up. It's going to run for a little while, and then it's going to do the same thing. So that's why I was asking about the fuel filter. Okay, and if you'd like to tell me how long it's been since you changed it, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, 10 star, it could be, it very might be a faulty overheating sensor, and that would be my guess. If I had to venture a guess. Just keep in mind, though, folks, that any diagnostic information that I give you is strictly for informational purposes only. It's only to help guide you to a possible problem. The only way to properly diagnose a vehicle is to run diagnostic testing and road tests on that vehicle, and then have your mechanic give you a report. And I highly recommend that if you take your car to a automotive technician, you take it to an ASE certified master auto technician. There's someone who has been trained and tested, then they generally have got to renew those certifications every 5 years and stay current on the latest technology in order to be designated a master automotive technician. Okay. All right. Carl, who are you referring as senile? Me? I mean, I know you are, but, I was hoping to avoid a little bit of it. All right. Yeah, even Carl is saying he thinks it's a faulty heat sensor, and he's no mechanic. But yeah, I think it's probably a faulty temperature sensor, either in the engine block or the radiator. Either one will cause the engine to shut down if it should overheat. Yeah, I'm a car guy tacking to catch a fresh breeze. Tell me which car you have owned, you want to have back. I'm thinking it's a muscle car, 60s or 70s vintage. How about the rest of you? Okay, yeah, I'll go there for a minute. Probably my favorite car that I owned, I had a 74 Gran Torino with a 351 Windsor engine. I wish it had had the Cleveland engine in it, but that was one of my favorite cars. I've had a few favorite cars. I had a 1968 Plymouth Grand Fury, 318 small block V8 engine, fantastic car, good on gas, and just a very comfortable car. I happen to like big cars. In fact, I currently drive a 2003 Mercury Grand Marquis with a 4.6 liter V8 in it. They're excellent cars. If they're properly maintained, they'll last a very long time, which is why so many of your taxi and livery services, as well as your limousine services, tend to use that type of car, either, a Ford Crown Vic, Mercury Grand Marquis, or a Lincoln Town Car. All right. Another one of my favorite cars is I had a 72 Challenger with a 318. It was kind of a rust bucket. I bought it out in Pennsylvania, but it was a good car. All right, those are amongst some of my favorite cars, guys. I also had a 1996 Mercury Cougar with a 4.6 liter engine. Excellent car, put well over 200,000 miles on it, and didn't have to junk it. In fact, I was able to trade it in at a dealership, and they took it and gave me $2,000 toward me purchasing a pickup truck, which is what I needed. I was living in Virginia Beach at the time, teaching school down there. Yeah, Akula, if you wait 30 minutes, it starts. Akula, when you go to start it up, see if the positive cable feels warm to the touch. All right? Don't burn yourself, because it can get very hot if resistance goes high in that cable. But, if you're trying to crank the engine over and those cables are getting hot, chances are you've got a bad cable and too much resistance, and that's why the vehicle doesn't want to start. Then again, when it cools down, resistance is low and it starts right up. It gets hot again and it doesn't want it to start again. All right, so give that a go. Yeah, Carl, I bet you'd like to have your 2015 5-liter Mustang back. Yeah, it seems like the wife got it all in the divorce and just left you with the clothes on your back. All right, Ethan F., I have an insufficient flow error code on my 98 F-150. Will Seafoam help clean out the throttle body, or will I need to remove the throttle body to clean it properly? That's a good question, Ethan. I don't have x-ray vision, and neither do you, so I can't really look in there to tell you. Now, this insufficient flow error, that's not fuel flow generally, that's airflow. All right? Usually when you get a code, in fact, can you tell me what code it's setting so I can look it up for you? All right, Ethan, if you can tell me what code, I'll be more than happy to look up the code for you and, go from there. But when you get a flow code like that, that's not fuel they're talking about. That's an airflow code. All right? Now, it's possible that you might have a defective mass airflow sensor. All right, the mass airflow sensor is what tells the computer on the vehicle how much air is flowing into the engine, and then based on that, it tells how much the fuel injector should feed. All right, the only proper way to clean the throttle body is to really pull it off. There's sprays that you can buy in the auto parts store. Make sure you're using a spray that's for throttle bodies, not for carburetors, because you don't want to damage any of the seals on the throttle body. Okay, very important that you use the proper cleaners. Seafoam will help clean your fuel system. It'll help clean out the fuel injectors, but it's not going to improve your airflow any. Also, check your air filters. Folks, one of the biggest lack of maintenance items that I see on a daily basis is air filters that are clogged up with crap. All right, people forget about changing your air filter. In general, you want to change your air filter out at least once every 20,000 miles. If you live in populations like I do, where you live in the New York City area, major cities, all right, you live in dusty areas, out in middle America in the farmlands, and you're running dirt roads, you want to change your air filter, I would say, as often as every 6 months. Okay? Keeping air flowing into an engine keeps an engine happy. All right, when you start restricting the airflow into an engine, that's when you're going to have running issues with that engine. Okay, so keep that in mind. And if you're getting a code that says airflow insufficient, it's airflow, not fuel flow, that they're talking about. Enough talk about ex-wives here. I'm working on my first ex-wife right now. Yeah, Waukesha Pilot, I had the same problem with the 76 Eldorado. Sold the car, problem solved. Yeah, that's one way, but that's an expensive way of getting rid of the problem. Or maybe not so expensive. It depends on how much money you dumped into it trying to get them to fix it right. But Waukesha, that was probably the problem, is probably high resistance in the starting circuit. All right? Remember, in those big old Cadillacs, you had big old V8 engines, usually 500 cubic inch. And, back in those days, we were running higher compression, about 10 to 1. Our regular gasoline was about, back then, about 99 octane. Now we're running lower octane fuels, lower compression engines. One of the reasons we've gone to lower compression is now they like to put turbos and superchargers on everything, and you can't do that on a high compression motor. All right, tacking to catch a fresh breeze. His favorite car was a 67 Thunderbird. All right, my favorite dream car, now I've never owned one, but my favorite dream car is a 63 Stingray split window. All right, if I could ever own a 63 Stingray split window, I would be in heaven. All right, that is definitely, without a doubt, my favorite car. Whoop, just a second. We'll get this set right back up. That's me and my fat hands. All right, there we go. I'm back again. Sorry about that, folks. All right, let me back up here, see what I missed. Yeah, 60. Okay, my favorite car. This is from Tacking to Catch a Fresh Breeze. Their favorite car was a '67 Thunderbird. It was their first. What a wonderful car for your first car. Yeah, I know what first cars are like. My very first car, my own very first car that I bought was a '65 Plymouth Fury. Okay, and I loved it dearly. In fact, so much that my next car after that was a '68 Plymouth Fury 3. All right, I called it my living room on wheels because it was like sitting on a couch. Red End says, Doug, sounds like you and Carl have logged a few miles together. Who's the better driver? I would say in our early days, Carl was definitely the better driver. How can I put it? I was a bit reckless behind the wheel in my younger years. Now I'm probably more of an impatient driver than a reckless one. I have driven everything professionally from two wheels on up to tandem tractor trailer trucks. I do have a Class A CDL, and I have used it and have driven cross country. I've also driven motor coaches, Atlantic City runs, things like that from the New York area. And back in those days, I would say Carl's the better driver. He probably still is the better driver, but I have logged well over 1 million miles and have had a minimum of accidents over that time. The thing that catches me as far as accidents go is I get impatient. I've just got to be more patient, but that I think is part of my upbringing here in the New York area. It was a very good thing for me when I lived out in Ohio for 7 years because I learned a whole different way of life and that life could be different. All right, let me go back up here in the chat. Captain 10 Star says, I never changed the fuel filter, Doug. The car has almost 500,000 miles on it, literally. I'll start with an overheating sensor and start. I would start with that fuel filter, then go to the overheat sensor. Okay? If you've never changed that fuel filter, change it. My God, man. You should be changing that fuel filter out at least every 18 to 24 months. All right, at least. As for Yakula, had a '67 Fury 3 with the 318 and wrapped it around a tree. Oh, man, am I sorry to hear that. Those were some beautiful cars. Like I said, I had a '65 Fury and then a '68 Fury 3 with the 318. And actually had a buddy of mine wrap the tail end of mine around a light post. Yeah, that was Stephen, Carl. He wanted to drive it one more time before I sold it. I had the car sold already. And he said, let me drive it one more time. And he went, up behind Lewis Oil, coming down a hill, and then took a sharp turn there by the car wash and ended up wrapping my rear quarter panel into the phone pole. Yeah, I know you loved your old Volkswagen Bug, Carl. That was the car that Carl and I went out to Ohio in, and we drove around out there, and we beat the shit out of that car and just took a licking and kept on ticking like an old Timex. All right. In fact, I'm looking for a girl like that. If anybody knows one, send her my way. Only kidding. By the way, ladies, I hope if there are any ladies on, I don't offend you. You got to remember I'm an old mechanic, and we sometimes speak without thinking. Well, men tend to do that anyway. Correction to P0401. All right, Ethan, let me look that up for you. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it after I finish the live stream here, and I'll get back to you with that. You can always, email me. You can always, message me on YouTube, and I will get back to you and help you with your questions. So keep that in mind, folks. Yeah, we did go a little off topic. Okay, what camera am I using? I'm not using a camera. I'm using my Samsung J7 Galaxy phone, okay? I don't really have anything other than that right now to record with, so I'm using that. It's supposed to have a pretty good camera on it, so, that's what I'm using for now. Eventually down the road, if I get some money together, I'll buy myself a less expensive digital camera and try going from there. But for now, I'm just using my my Samsung J7. Don B, Seeley, good to see you again this week. All right, Doug, I've got a Lexus RX 330 2006 model. It's got the halogen nameable headlights. Yeah, expensive stuff. Sometimes the lights go off and on as they wish, one light at a time. All right, you can switch to high beam and off, and then they come back on. All right, you have what they call a lighting control module on that, Seeley. And you might be having issues with the lighting control module. I would have it tested out by the Lexus people or a certified Lexus repair shop. They have the equipment for testing those because it is basically another computer that's on board your Lexus. All right. Unfortunately, you bought a high-end car, and there's probably on that Lexus about 18 different computers that control everything from your seating presets on your drivers and passenger seats, to your windshield wipers, to your radio presets, to your engine controls, and your temperature controls and everything else. So keep that in mind. It sounds to me like you got a bad lighting control module. I ran into the same problem on my Grand Marquis. In fact, there was a recall on it, and my car is going in September 4th for the recall at the dealer to have the lighting control module replaced. Yeah, on Seeley, get that taken care of soon, because you don't want to be on a dark back road somewhere and have those lights go off and leave you blind. You know, that could be a very, very dangerous situation. People get killed that way. In fact, that's why Ford has done the recall on their Mercury and Crown Vics and their Lincoln Town cars with this lighting control module, and they are replacing them free of charge. All right, hope that helped with that, Seeley. Definitely sounds like a lighting control module. Yeah, Carl says I still drive too fast. Well, Carl, I do, but so does everybody else up here. And if I'm driving slower than they are, then I'm creating a hazard on the road. So that's how I kind of feel about that. All right. Yeah, Carl, I do tend to drive fast. Not too fast. I don't think I drive too fast. There are other people that drive a lot faster than me out there. But generally, yeah, when I get on the expressway, I'm going to be doing 65 and a 55. You know, I might even do 70, but generally I don't do much faster than that, and I don't think 70 is excessive speed in this day and age. You know, that is traffic permitting. Sailmaster, no, you're not blocked here. I will try, as long as you keep it, you know, amicable and cordial. I will be the same to you, and I don't intend on blocking anybody. Everybody is welcome. All right, just bring your automotive questions with you, and I'll be more than happy to try and answer it. In fact, I was reading something on Facebook today. It had to do with, you know, if you can help somebody along your way in life, then basically it was saying you haven't lived your life in vain, and that life has been worthwhile. And that's kind of the way I feel about what I do. Tagging to catch a fresh breeze. Yes, I do have my PayPal account set up. All right, it's www.paypalme /Douglas and Bergamo. Okay, yes, if you'd like to make a donation to me, that would be wonderful. I don't ask that you make a donation. However, if you find that I'm able to help you out with your questions and it helps save you some money, maybe you could throw a couple of it back my way. All right, I am disabled these days. I am not working. I'm retired. I have been on kidney dialysis for 8 years. I have gone through triple bypass surgery this last January. I have gone through knee surgery on both knees, where I have had to have my quadricep muscle reattached to the patella on both knees, and I have also had surgery to remove a mass calcification that had grown around my sciatic nerve on my left hip, and therefore I am disabled. I don't have the stamina that I used to, and really have problems getting out there and working on a daily basis anymore. I just can't do that, which is why I kind of started up this channel. It keeps me busy. It gives me purpose. And if I can help a few people out along the way, then I feel like I've accomplished something in my life. Yeah, will Keisha have one for me? You know, I don't have one very often anymore. Doctors said that when I was 30, because I had polycystic kidney disease, that I had better stop drinking, and I pretty much have. I'll have a beer occasionally, social gatherings, you know, with my good friend Carl when I get together with him, maybe, but that's about it. Catching a fresh breeze, yes, 10-star major changes on my horizon, and I changed my YouTube channel name. Okay, what's up, 10-star? Shoot me an email when you can. Guys, if you're going to, you know, maybe you could do that on your own time instead of on my channel. I would appreciate it. I'm not going to, you know, get upset with you over it, but, you know, I would appreciate it if you'd let me get back to doing what I do here. Yeah, thank you, Carl. Carl, I'm going to try making you a mod again. Let me see whether I can do it. I'm sorry. Why is it not letting me do this? Now nothing's happening. Maybe I have to have my phone rotated to do that? I don't know. The next Scotty Killer. Okay, let me back up here because oh, that's funny. Okay, Ethan, thanks for the help. Yeah, I hope I'm able to help you, Ethan. I really do. If not, let me know. Get back to me, and you know, we'll break out the old thinking cap again and come up with some different ideas. Martin Hill, okay, I'm here now. Off getting a load of hay with my 94 F250 Power Stroke diesel. Love it. Please start over. Well, I'm not going to start over, but you can definitely start my live stream over again after we wrap up here. So I would highly recommend that you do that. In the meantime, welcome aboard and join in. Hope you brought some questions for me. I'm more than always happy to answer your questions. Yeah, I just set up that PayPal about 3 days ago, taking a catch fresh. Tacking to catch a fresh breeze. So if you searched for it last time, you might not have found it. Try searching under my name if possible. All right. That would be under Douglas, Douglas. Last name is Imbergamo. That's spelled I-M as in Mary, Bergam as in Mary, O. Okay, try that. All right, but I should be there under www.paypal.me/Douglas Imbergamo. I also have set up my Patreon account, folks, so if any of you are interested in becoming a patron, I would more than welcome that, but more to come on that later. I'm not posting that link up today. I'll get that up there, you know, so that it's up next Saturday. Sailmaster, thank you. I appreciate that. You're a good dude too, I think, and I got a kick out of it when I first saw that a couple of minutes ago, and you said that I hope I become the next Scotty Kilmer. Uh, you know, only guys our age are going to know who that is, probably. All right, Don, good luck. Yeah, Carl, when I try and click on your name, it's not giving me anything. All right, it's not letting me do anything on this phone. Maybe I have to have the phone rotated. But, you know, let me worry about that toward the end. And it is getting toward the end. I've been on an hour already. Sailmaster, rev up your engines. Haha, you need a good tagline. Yeah, think of one for me. In fact, Waukesha, maybe you could think of one for me. You know, a good tagline. Or maybe you and Sailmaster can get together and brainstorm one for me. You know, I forget whether it's under Doug or Douglas. I tried both ways. I think I put it under Douglas. Yeah, Carl says I put it under Douglas. Okay, folks, any more questions before we wrap up today's session? Because I have a tip for you, a maintenance tip today for you. I'm going to try and bring you a maintenance tip every week. All right, and as we get more and more people on and we start building more subscribers here, folks, I hope to maybe start doing this twice a week, maybe more. We'll see how things go. I also might adjust the hours around here a little bit and try to tweak it. Maybe I should come on a little later in the afternoon, like maybe around 4 or 5. Give me your input. Let me know what you think. I really do appreciate your input on these things, and look forward to hearing back from you regarding that. Yeah, Carl Brook is posted back up there again. It's under Douglas in Bergamo. All right, C. Lee Shannon, extended warranty has saved my butt big time in the past when I didn't have the cash on hand and had major failure. But you have to read the fine print. Also, can usually drop around other than dealer. Yeah. Uh, yeah, shop around other than dealer. Yeah, absolutely. If you have an extended warranty on your vehicle, you do not have to take it to the dealer for service, but you do need to take it to a certified, repair shop. And that's where that ASE certification comes in. They just want to make sure that you're getting your vehicle serviced by a professional that knows what they're doing, and they're not going to create more problems for you than what you already have. Okay, we've all been down that road, including myself. I've been stuck sometimes where I've been away from home, car's broken down, I've had to rely on somebody else, and I've gotten beat over badly, and I think we've all been down that road. All right, so keep that in mind. Let's see, Waukesha, extended warranties, your thoughts. It depends on the kind of person you are. I think that if you're not mechanically inclined, yes, you will save money down the road with extended warranties, especially if you have an older vehicle, because as we know, the older a vehicle gets, the more maintenance and service it requires. Uh, I do feel that some of these warranty plans are very overpriced. If you own something like a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz, it may be more cost effective for you to take out an extended warranty than to just rely on the dealer or an authorized repair facility every time that it needs to be repaired. So do your homework on it. Determine what kind of person you are. If you're handy and you like to do some of this work yourself, yeah, you're going to save money by not taking out an extended warranty. But when something major breaks, then you also, on the other hand, are going to have to pay for it. So, keep that in mind. Also, with extended warranties, there's usually always a deductible. So keep that in mind as well. Generally those deductibles can be anywhere from $100 to $1,000 per every time you take it in for service. That's not ASE, or ASC, Carl. It's ASE, as in Adam, Sam, Einstein. All right. You kind of got to be a bit of an Einstein in order to pass their certification exams. ASE briefly used to be known as NIASE, and they are the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence, and they are internationally known. All right, they do certification of auto technicians, auto parts counter people, auto body and fender people, paint, auto painting, diesel technicians, stationary generator technicians. If it has to do with motor vehicles of any sort, they are the certifying entity. And what they do is they have a series of certification exams. For me to certify as a master automotive technician, I had to certify in 8 different areas of auto repair. That meant taking 8 different tests. All right. Some of those tests was, well, I'll just run them through them quickly. I had to be certified in the engine of engine repair, engine tune-up. All right, that's another area. Steering and suspension, area number 3. Brakes, area number 4. Heating and air conditioning, area number 5. I'm trying to think. Steering and suspension, area number 6. All right, rear ends, manual transmissions, and differentials, area number 7. And number 8, automatic transmissions and transaxles. All right. Now, in addition to that, I went one step further and also certified in exhaust systems, and that in turn made me, in addition to a master auto technician, also an undercar specialist. All right. Those certifications have to be retaken every 5 years because they do expire, which means that the technician has to keep up on the latest technology because the exams do. And if you're not keeping up on the technology, you're going to get to the exam and not know what the heck they're talking about. So, that's what helps. Now, unfortunately, many states don't require any certification for technicians or any licensing of automotive technicians. So the only way you're going to know that you've got somebody who hopefully knows their stuff is to have them be an ASE certified technician. Hope that answers that question for you, Carl. I thank you for bringing that up. I meant to touch on that a little bit today. I think that, being an ASE technician myself, I felt that it was very important that I sought out that knowledge and that certification in order to be, a leader in my trade. And I felt that I was for many, many years. I did constantly have to go to school to keep up with the technology. Believe me, cars were much different when I first started learning about them. In the late 1960s, early 70s. I mean, I started as a young boy because my father was an auto mechanic. He was also a teacher of auto mechanics. Probably didn't have the patience that I have as far as teaching goes, but that was all right. He taught in his own way. I teach in mine, uh, and hopefully that all has worked out. I know it seems to have worked out for me, uh, but that's everybody does things differently. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, you have to renew those certifications every 5 years. Like I said, constantly going back to school, keeping up with technology. Back in my day when I first started learning about cars, it was all about carburetors, distributors, points, maybe dual points, condensers, setting ignition timing, setting valve timing, maybe indexing spark plugs in order to get a little bit more horsepower out of an engine. Things like that. Today, everything is done with a laptop computer. You don't have a laptop or know how to use it and how to, access the systems aboard your automobile, you're going to be lost. So that's kind of the way things are. All right, let me get back here to the chat. Yes, Sailmaster, extended warranties are great if the dealer is honest. It's okay to make a few bucks, and they are out there. But when they rob you for 2,000 plus for something that costs a fourth of that, yeah, I agree with you, man. You know, one of the reasons that I did this channel and I talked with Carl about possibly doing this, when we were talking before its inception, it was all about trying to help people because there are a lot of unscrupulous people out there that call themselves mechanics or technicians, and they don't know how to diagnose. We talked about them being really nothing more than glorified parts changers that play the hit and miss guessing game with you. Oh, you've got a code, you've got this sensor bad, we're going to change out that sensor and hope that it solves the problem. Well, I go back to the days when we had to diagnose. If a sensor goes bad, what caused that sensor to go bad? Was it the sensor itself, or was it something mechanical that caused the sensor to go bad, or something electronic that's caused the sensor to go bad? There's a number of things these days that can cause that problem. And the proper way of fixing an automobile, all right, isn't just to replace the broken part. We want to determine why did that part break, what made it break, and then go and fix that. That's what being a true diagnostician is all about in this day and age. All right, and people have forgotten that. All right, I tried to stress that to my students back when I taught. It's not enough just to fix the vehicle, but you have to fix what caused the vehicle to get broken in the first place. All right, you do that for a customer, and you're going to make a customer for life. I mean, I've had people that have traveled from Connecticut all the way down here to Long Island. All right, in fact, a gentleman that I bought my Fiat Spider off of, which I'm looking to restore here in the near future, uh, he used to come down from Connecticut. He only used the car on a weekend, and went up to Connecticut to go see his girlfriend. And he said nobody up there knows how to fix them. He used to bring it to me, and I tuned it up the first time for him, the very first time he bought it to me. And he says, after that, he says, I'll never take my car anywhere else again. And that was the case with him for many, many years. When he went to go decide that he wanted another car, newer car, he offered to sell the Fiat to me, and I bought it. And like I says, I'm looking eventually to do a restoration on it. It's a cute little Fiat Spider convertible, and I bought it with only 68,000 miles on it. All right, back to the chat. Hey, Smoking. Doug, a little later would be better for those of us in California. Yeah, 11 o'clock, I guess, is kind of early on a Saturday morning there. I wasn't thinking about that, and you're right. Yeah, I will, take that into consideration, and, we'll try and move things around here a little bit. Maybe we'll do it on Sundays as well, maybe Saturday and Sunday, because those are days that aren't dialysis days for me. And to be honest with you, after the dialysis treatment that I had last night, I wasn't for sure that I was going to get on today. I know that when I woke up at about noon today, I certainly wasn't feeling like coming on, YouTube and talking cars for an hour. But, I didn't want to let down my listeners. I'm a new channel, and, I'm trying to build subscribers, not lose them. So, if you can help me with that by passing the word to friends and family, that a guy is on. He's got a live talk about cars. He helps answers your questions. I would appreciate you passing the word, letting people know, and I'm looking to build this channel and hope to be doing it for a long time to come. Waukesha Pilot, third generation Cadillac CTS, just out of warranty, every option available, all-wheel drive, 3.6 liter engine. Yeah, Cadillac is, led the way for years in technology there, and, unfortunately, it's been a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing from the point of getting the technology out there. The bad thing is that you have that technology and not everybody knows how to fix it. Beautiful car, though. I've always liked the CTS. Captain 10 Star, you take care. I guess you've got to go. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate the good luck wishes. By the way, anybody that has any other channels they want to plug, Carl, go ahead, plug your channel. Anybody else have any channels, please, feel free to go out and put up a shameless plug. I never mind you putting up somebody else's plug or a plug for your own channel on mine. So, Smoking, it's never too early for a brew, or a doob for that matter. All right, time to get started, guys. I see, yeah, this is winding down, it looks like. Yeah, I'm so old that, I remember pedal cars. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Carl. I love you too, man. Yeah, Catch a Fresh Breeze, thank you for that. I appreciate that you feel I'm doing a good job. I'm trying to get these better and better. I definitely want to put out some real videos of actual work being done on some automobiles and guide you through some jobs and some inspections and things like that. I'll be doing that. It looks like we're getting ready to wrap it up here, so I want to give you that tip of the day, maintenance tip of the day. All right, it involves a little bit about what we talked about, high resistance and starting circuits and on batteries and things, charging system issues, starting system issues, and a way to avoid them, especially before you know it, the cold weather will be here, and you're going to want to make sure that that car starts. And I'm going to talk to you about how to clean your battery terminals and your ends of your battery cables that attach to those terminals. Folks, very, very simple. I know a lot of people say use Coca-Cola. Why use Coca-Cola when you got baking soda right in your refrigerator, probably? All right, and the way to use the baking soda is this. Take a 1-quart container, preferably an old Chinese soup container, fill it about halfway up with water, take 2 tablespoons of baking soda, mix it into the warm water, not hot water, warm water, because it'll help it dissolve. And then with a paintbrush, paint the terminals and the battery cable ends with the solution. You will see it start to bubble up. And what it's doing by bubbling up is neutralizing the acid corrosion that is on those terminals. using a base to neutralize an acid. Alright, when that is done, hose it down with a hose, dry it all off. At that point, if you want to remove the battery cable connectors from the battery terminals, you can do that. You can buy yourself a cheap battery terminal and connector cleaning tool in any auto parts store or automotive section of a hardware store, generally for under $3, $4 at the most. And clean up your terminals, keep it clean. All right, make sure that those terminals are tight and connected well. Okay, that's my tip of the week for you folks, to keep your cars running and charging properly. Okay, listen everybody, if that's it, I've been on for an hour and 15 right now, and I'm looking to wrap it up here. But before I do, I just want to check the rest of the chat. Seeley says you all have a great day, the rest of it. Yes, Seeley, I think since for you guys out there on the West Coast, we're going to start doing this a little later, as it looks like I have a few of you out there. Waukesha Pilot, 67,000 window stickers, seat heat. Went out on one side, still in a warranty. Dealer found $200 worth of work for free. Dealer wanted $4,400 for extended warranty. Well, there you go. You paid for half of your extended warranty. Yeah, grease the terminals when assembled. I don't like necessarily using grease. You can buy, battery terminal corrosion spray in an aerosol can, or you can buy the anti-corrosive pads that go underneath the battery, terminal connectors. I prefer using those. They're a lot less messy. Grease is going to attract dirt, and why attract dirt to your battery terminals? The idea is to keep them clean so you have a good, clean connection. So, yeah, many years ago we used grease. Not anymore. Okay, so keep that in mind. That was my wife trying to ring through. I'm sorry about that. She must not have realized that I'm still doing my live stream. All right, so my answer to you, Martin, is no, I wouldn't grease the terminals. I would use either those, corrosive felt pads that go under the battery connectors, or I would spray it down with some aerosol, electric terminal anti-corrosive spray. Again, those are available in any parts store, folks. Yeah, Waukesha, I don't blame you for not taking the extended warranty. $4,400 is quite a chunk of money. I hope you won't need it. I hope that you don't have any major issues with the vehicle, and that you don't end up needing to have that warranty. Martin, you're very welcome. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here for today. Keep in mind, hit the subscription button, hit the thumbs up button on my channel. If you hit the subscribe button, you'll receive notifications as to when I'm on. And since I'm looking to change the times around a little bit anyway, I would highly recommend that if you want to continue watching me and know when I'll be on. So keep that in mind, folks. Listen, until then, until next week. Oh, one more question. Hey, Popeye, how are you? You have a 52 Ford F1 that's been sitting in your garage for some time. Yeah, how long is some time, Popeye? I'll wait for you to answer me, Popeye. Yeah, I need to know how long is some time. All right, also, what type of engine is in it? Is it the Ford Flathead? Is it a 6? Is it an 8? What is it? It's been sitting for 10 years. Okay, 10 years is a hell of a long time. Especially if it wasn't put up right in the first time. Have you checked to see that the engine cranks over manually by hand? That is, you put a breaker bar in the crankshaft pulley bolt and you try to turn the engine. Thank you, Carl. Okay, it's a Course Clipper 6. Yeah, those were pretty good engines for back in the day. They were... Have you tried to... Yeah, Popeye, have you tried to turn the engine over by hand using a breaker bar? Seeley, I'm sorry to hear that you've been there and done that. Yeah, I know it wipes you out. Believe you me, nobody knows better than I do. I've been doing this for over 8 years now. It does crank over. Okay, you rebuilt the starter, she cranks. All right, you know, you got to go back to basics here. It's an older vehicle. Again, you know, back to basics. Basics are, is it getting air? Is it getting fuel? Is it getting a spark? Does the engine turn over? All right, so you've eliminated the problem of the engine turning over, and we know that the starter works. All right, have you changed out the fuel filter? Have you dropped the tank out and looked at the condition inside the tank? Have you dumped any old fuel out of it that might have still been sitting in there? Did you flush out the fuel lines? Did you replace your fuel filter? Have you rebuilt the carburetor? All right, these are all things that need to be done in bringing a vehicle back that's has set for that long. Okay, and that's just to get it running. To get it driving requires a whole lot more work. All right, hope that helped. Okay, but make sure, you know, Popeye, that, you know, I would try running it off, you know, one of these portable auxiliary tanks of fuel at first. I wouldn't try running fuel through the tank and through the fuel system on there. I don't know what kind of rust is up in there, and you don't want to be sucking that stuff into the, you know, through the carburetor and into the engine. You'll destroy everything that you've already tried to accomplish. So I would get an auxiliary fuel tank and try hooking that directly up to the carburetor, and see whether you can't run the vehicle that way. Or I should say, not to the carburetor, but to your fuel pump. Okay, I would try doing that way. If you can't get to the fuel pump to hook up to the fuel pump, you can always do a gravity feed directly to the carburetor intake. Okay. All right, hope that helps. Celia, I appreciate the well wishes there. It has a bowl, no filter. Kind of find that hard to believe. It's got a filter on it somewhere, whether it be up in the carburetor itself. All right, at the intake portion of the carburetor, there may be a filter there. Could be a ceramic filter. Could be a paper filter. Yeah, if there's rust in the tank, man, you want to get that tank out and either replace it or do a treatment of it, get the rust out, which means you're going to have to treat it with acid, and then you know, neutralize it or neutralize the acid, and then some kind of a fuel-proof epoxy coating, usually a two-part that goes in the tank, gets swished around to coat the tank. But you know, that's usually what needs to be done. Yeah, Popeye, much like a tractor. Yeah. Yeah. All right, anything else that we need to address? I can't believe I'm on here for almost an hour and a half. Guys, I'm a little dry. I'm going to take a sip of water before I say goodnight to you all, or good afternoon. Hope that you tune in again next Saturday. All right, or at least subscribe. Please, thank you for hitting the thumbs up. And hope to see you all next week. All right. Popeye has another comment. Removing the sending unit first. Yeah, good idea. Yep, good idea. Drop the tank, remove the sending unit. Use a flashlight for looking up in there and seeing what it looks like inside, and then figure out what you're going to do from there, Popeye. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. What's left of it, enjoy it. Enjoy your Labor Day. And I just want to wish you all happy motoring. Until we talk again next week, feel free to send me text messages via YouTube, and I will get them and try and answer them online. All right, folks, have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye now.